everybody, and welcome to our Brand Up Live webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute honour to be the host today. Just a couple of quick things before we bring in our esteemed guest. My name is Matt Davies. I'm here to interview Age Chatham, the CEO of Cooper Parry, and as I say, we'll get to that just shortly. But what is this all about? Well, this is part of a Brand Up Live series. Brand Up is the only dedicated brand conference in the Midlands, UK. It was due to launch in July this month, but obviously it's not been the best year to launch an event. And me and my colleague Steve Whittle we've managed to get it postponed. So we're still on, still raring to get this off the ground. It's going to be in February next year, February the 19th, Valentine's Day. So I'm really hoping that that everybody who bought a ticket for the July one we can just kind of carry that forwards. It's for charity, it's for Age Concern, and they could do with the help right now. What is it all about? Well, I'm a brand and culture consultant, and the thing for me is that I really believe that brand thinking and strategic thinking around why you exist, who you exist to serve, and why it matters and why you're different, that's the secret sauce to building a great business and for growth and success. And so basically Brand Up has been put on to bring some of that thinking from practitioners, from some of the brightest minds in the region, from business leaders, from other consultants, from great thinkers, and get that out into the East Midlands to really help us in business in the current situation. So until that time, Steve and I thought, well, wouldn't it be great to keep things going because we can't have everybody in a room? Let's do some online events. And so this is one of the online events, and making massive waves in this space over the last decade has been Cooper Parry. And funnily enough, I used to always use them as an example in some of my work. And so it's an absolute privilege today to basically host this event and to bring Age Chatham in, who's the CEO and who's been the missing element, the missing piece, as it were, of the puzzle for Cooper Parry that's really projected them in the last 10 years into a phenomena which basically has seen them recently win some amazing awards, including the Sunday Times kind of best companies to work for in the UK. I think that you guys were graded eighth, which is an amazing achievement. And I know in the press, Aid, you're called the Rebels of Accountancy. So welcome to the show. Thanks so much for coming on today. I'm loving the surfer hair, and thank you for taking some time out to be with us.
Hey Matt, thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here. Yeah, this is my lockdown look. All right.
It looks good, mate. It looks good. I think I had one of them, but my wife just trimmed all my golden locks off, which is a shame. But you're looking great. I'm loving it. It should stay. I reckon it should stay. It's good. So thanks for joining us today. I appreciate you're super busy, and I'm aware that you'll have a lot going on. So thanks for making the time. But I really wanted to center our conversation, because we've got you for an hour. I wanted to center our conversation on that journey, on that transformation that under your leadership, Cooper Parry has been going through. So perhaps we could sort of start at the very beginning, when you kind of came on board. What were things like 10 plus years ago? What was it? Just paint the picture.
Wow. Okay. Well, let me start in the beginning. Yeah. So Cooper Parry started in 1850. So wow. 170 years of trading, a lot of heritage, a lot of history, ton of tradition. Oldest firm of accountants in Derby. I think we're like the 8th or 9th generation of partners. So, Cooper Parry started a long time ago. Yeah, it's been around a long time, many years before I kind of got involved. But I joined in 2004, and okay. So what's that? Like 16 years ago, and it was somewhat different to what it is now. Yeah, and very strong local regional firm. But hugely traditional, right? And to put it in a context, I guess, I remember my first day turning up at the office. It's a very traditional office, very old building. a huge rabbit warren of a building. I was kind of shown around and got to meet tons of people. And I was taken to my office. I had an office. It was under the stairs. It was it was kind of quite small. It was about 2 meters by 2 meters, and I like 20 coats of paint on the wall and some damp and some mold on the wall. And I'm kind of looking around thinking, okay, I'm not sure about that. And then I was taken upstairs, right? And I went upstairs to meet the partners, and they all had their offices upstairs, and everyone else was like downstairs where I was under the stairs. And then I went to meet the chairman, and he had the biggest corner office, right, in the building, and he had this like really long desk. It must have been like 5 or 10 meters long. I mean, it's a long desk, right? And he kind of sat at one end and like kind of rolled back, and I think he was having a cigar or something at the time, and I sat at the other end and like kind of sitting there thinking, wow, this is a bigger office than mine, right? And then I came out, and a lady came past with a trolley, and she was making tea just for the partners, and there were nobody else. So that was like 15, 16 years ago. So there's like this real hierarchy and upstairs, downstairs feel to the place. And all the partners were white, they were all male, they all wore suits and shirts and ties, and they looked a pretty serious bunch, and they looked like accountants.
How much had they changed from the 100 years that had preceded the partners to that point? Had they changed much?
No, I mean the honest answer is very, very similar. I mean you maybe have seen some of the photos we've got there of the oldest photo we've got of our partner group is in 1900. That's like the earliest photo we've got at Cooper Parry, and yeah, they look pretty similar to the 2004 crew. Yeah.
Wow.
But, the thing was they were really kind of fun, colourful group of people outside of work, but like in work and as a business, they felt the need to conform and stick to tradition, and as a result, Cooper Parry at that time ended up being, your very stereotypical type of accountants, in every way. Super alpha male, essentially a group of sole practitioners, each doing their own thing, and the guy with the biggest fee book had the biggest say around the table, and culture wasn't really talked about back then. So Cooper Parry just conformed to what was very much the traditional, stereotypical view of what accountants are like. Very serious, very traditional, pretty dull and boring, I guess, would be a good way to grab.
So in terms of brand thinking and there's obviously the brand expression of the brand identity and the logo and all that stuff. I imagine, you haven't told me this, but I'm imagining if that's the thinking within the culture of the firm, that they're looking around at what does an accountant, how does an accountancy firm show up, and they're then expressing themselves creatively in that way. Am I right, or have I read that right?
Yeah, so the question is, what was the brand like back then?
Yeah, what was it like back then?
Yeah, I mean, what I just described as the business and the people leading the business, I guess, manifests itself in the brand, yeah? So, I mean, back in 2004, the early 2000s, pretty much every firm of accountants looked the same anyway, yeah? So, our profession looked the same. Everybody's brand or logo was blue and grey.
Yeah,
it kind of danced on tradition. It referenced chartered accountants as this kind of badge of honour, and Cooper Parry was no different. So our logo was blue. It was grey. The typography was very traditional. The font was very traditional. The language and the tone of voice would have been hugely complex and technical, and non-human, and I guess we would, like everyone else, would have made it as complicated as we could for our clients to understand. Yeah, that was largely the brand. It was very Me Too, unremarkable in every way.
And did they? Do you know if they had? Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, just very traditional was essentially the look and the feel.
Yeah, and did they have an expression of kind of any vision or any kind of internal values or anything like that you can recall?
Good question. Yeah, I guess there was. I mean, I joined at a time of real change. So, I joined at a time when the older partners were just starting to retire out, and I was very lucky to join at a time when essentially a group of 30-year-olds came together, and most of us came from outside the firm and joined Cooper Parry. So, and I guess we all had a similar view of the world and a similar background. We'd all left national and big four firms of accountants, and we'd all left for similar reasons. The politics and the London-centric thinking and the red tape and all of that bullshit that was there in national firms at the time. Yeah, that had forced all of us out of those firms. So I guess to answer your question, I joined at a time when the firm was changing and changing fast, and it was changing because the kind of like the guard and the ownership and the partner group was changing, and a group of 30-year-olds came together who wanted to change the firm, and then we wanted to create something that was very different to the firms we'd left. Mm-hmm. With all that politics and trying to like infight to get over and climb up the ladder, to wanting to create something very entrepreneurial and very different. So I guess during that period, the shape of the business, the shape of the client book, the people, the partnership, the employees in the business all started to change, and the values would started to have changed at that point. So that process started before I joined, but I joined right in the heat of that kind of generational change. Mm-hmm. and the kind of passing of the baton from the older group of more traditional partners to a group of 30-year-olds who were I guess very driven and very hungry and very entrepreneurial as a group. They're different, but largely we saw the world the same way, and we set out to create something very different. Didn't really know what that meant, what that looked like, but we knew we wanted to be different to the firms that we'd left and different to the firm that we joined, with this upstairs, downstairs kind of hierarchy playing through it. So
how did you sort of set about making that change happen? Because I presume you didn't come in as CEO, right? I presume that there was some promotion or something. How did that kind of work? And then how did you set about making these changes happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair to say I wasn't the driving force back then. I was one of a number of partners that were part of the change, I guess. So, if you go back to the early change, well, first off, there was a generational change, and then that group of individuals, and I was one of them. Yeah, as I say, we wanted to create something different, but we didn't really know what that meant. So you largely just follow your heart at the time. So we started to run the business on like three quite simple principles, I guess, that felt right to us. Yeah, and the three were, the first one was hire talent. In its simplest sense, it was go out and hire as many talented people as we can, and this was about driven, ambitious, entrepreneurial people. It was just basically, let's go out and hire as well as we can, and hire talent and hire people with attitude. So that's the first principle. Well, putting that into practice, what that meant was that most of our competitors, all of our competitors, wanted to hire accountants. So they'd be going to business schools and hiring graduates who were doing accounting degrees, and we were like, well, we want very driven, competitive people here. So, where do we find those? Well, we find them in sporting institutions and colleges. So let's go out and hire there, not hire accountants. So I guess we started to kind of fish in a different pool in terms of talent. But, the simple strategy there was, hey, let's go and get great people. Yeah. And,
nice.
they'd only be accountants, right? They just need to be passionate, smart people with attitude. So that was the first principle. The second one was, hey, we're only here once, so we're gonna play hard. We're a very competitive group of people, but we want to have some fun here. So we're gonna enjoy the ride and enjoy the journey, and create something that we'd all want to work in. Create the sort of business where, hey, we want to go there.
Yeah.
So and thirdly, I keep saying it, we wanted to be different. So different. None of us really wanted to be accountants. I mean, that's the bottom line here. So we'd ended up in accountancy, but none of us really liked that kind of stereotype of accountants. So we wanted to create something very different, and that largely manifested itself in the early days in our brand. Yeah. So one of the very early changes that we did was to change the brand. Right. So I talked about the blue, the grey, the traditional, the chartered accountants. We changed that in 2005, and we went to market with colour, with simple pop art, very bold imagery, very bold colours. We changed the typography. We went lowercase. We went very modern fonts. We had a ton of fun and a real kind of playful tone of voice, and kind of real ballsy kind of attitude to the brand. And again, I had no idea how well that'd land, but it just felt like us, yeah. So there was no clever thinking behind it, other than, well, we need to stand out in a very crowded market, and we don't like how we look and feel, and how everybody else does. So let's put our brand out there in a way that it reflects who we are as people, yeah. And let's humanize it, and let's talk to people in the way and write in the way that we talk. And that was 2005. So we took a fairly big leap of faith, I guess, in the brand, and went for it. And plastered it everywhere around the East Midlands.
Well, you say that though because it's very interesting, because obviously, looking at it in hindsight, if you look at what you did there, you kind of created a reason for someone to choose you over the competition, right? You were different. And if you think about the types of people I imagine you were working with, like maverick CEOs, people who, you were recruiting people that were driven and ambitious. But I imagine that therefore, from a customer perspective, you were attracting people that were driven and ambitious and a bit more maverick and a bit more risk takers. So slowly positioning the brand, in hindsight, it makes complete sense. Like but as you say, maybe when you're in the middle of it, you weren't thinking that way.
With hindsight, I think it's genius, yeah. And sadly, I can't lay claim to that one. But I mean, look, we were reshaping the business in the sense of the type of people in the business. The client base was slowly evolving and reshaping, and going from high volume of small businesses to a much smaller number of fast-growing entrepreneurial businesses. So largely it attracted like to like, yeah, and was self kind of, I don't know, perpetuating, is that the right word? It was self-fulfilling, but yeah, it was amazing because it just the use of colour. We didn't know it at the time, but it just, people started to talk about the brand in our market. They started to talk about, oh, they're a bit different, aren't they? They're a bit colourful, and just the use of colour in our brand at the time, yeah, we were like the outlier in the sense of how we looked, which creates noise, yeah, and people are talking about it, and we dropped references to chartered accountants within that. And like, well, what do they even do? Who's this Cooper Parry, and there was something that was a bit curious about it, but it was very playful and a bit tongue-in-cheek and a bit edgy at times. And yeah, we had a ton of fun with the brand, but it really started to snowball and set us out as somebody very, very different. And then as the client base started to align with that, then it became super powerful, because largely our brand appealed to the types of businesses that we wanted to act for, which stood us out from a very competitive market.
So I want to keep going with the story in just a second, but I'm sure you know that my colleague Steve Whittle is behind the scenes, right, playing with all the tech in his control booth somewhere on planet Earth. And I understand Steve's voice will come booming over shortly. And I understand we've had a few questions already. So I wondered, are you up for answering a couple of quick questions on the early days?
Yeah, far away.
Right, Steve, over to you, sir.
Hey,
Okay,
Steve.
so hey, how you doing, Aid? So we've got a couple of questions in. Well, the first one is from Graham. He said, could you have achieved what you have done if you'd been a London city-based firm?
Okay. Hey, Graham. Great question. Could we have achieved? Yeah, I guess. We might have achieved it even quicker. I guess the whole process of, attracting the right sorts of clients who get us and we get them. We're in London now, so we went into London 18 months ago, and we've probably excelled and outperformed any expectation we had, largely because there's a ton of businesses in London that they get us and we get them. So we're new to London didn't know us, but when it kind of gets to know us, then there's a real kind of attraction for the right type of business. So I guess I'm not answering this very well, but yeah, I don't see, if we'd have been in London like 20 years ago rather than the East Midlands, in many ways I think it would have been easier to excel than in the East Midlands. We start off as a Derby firm in Derby and move into Nottingham, which has a different vibe, and then into Leicester, and then into the West Midlands, and there's tons of entrepreneurial businesses, of course, in that market, but hey, there's more in London. There's certainly more startup, there's more founder-led, there's just a very different market and a very different vibe that gets us. But London's obviously a much bigger place to play. So to answer the original question, if we'd have been in London, and there's plenty of traditional London firms that are still traditional London firms, hey, they've all got to change sooner or later, I would suggest. So the times are changing. So
the times are changing. Steve, did we have any more?
Yes, we got a great one from Steve. He first of all wanted to say he's loving the story. I guess the last 6 months have been one hell of a chapter. How important has been true to your brand personality helps with communications, internal and external, over these strange times?
Can I wade in here and just say, let's do that question, but let's bring us up to that point, because where would you say we are time-wise in the story, Aid? You've had that great growth spurt from 2004 onwards. But I know it wasn't all plain sailing right up until like COVID, right? So talk us through sort of any bumps along the way, any challenges that came up, and any big ones particularly.
Right, yeah. So the point in the story is we did 2005. So we've got a long way to go. Now I'll speed it up. So the 2005, in the next few years, we started to really dominate the local market. So the spin out of the brand change, and a very competitive group of people, and it really just real focus on business development and marketing and selling into the East Midlands market. We really did start to get some traction and gain market share and largely dominate the market. And we were, I touched on a minute ago, we expanded out of Derby and Nottingham and Leicester, so we were expanding geographically. We were moving up the food chain in terms of the size, the complexity of business that we were looking after. And businesses, as we touched on, that were much more like us, so much more entrepreneurial and fast-moving, fast-growing. So businesses that we kind of connected with, and we'd set sights on the top 20 firms in the UK. So we were kind of growing super fast. Weren't perfect in any way, made tons of mistakes, but I guess had a real swagger and belief to us. And then yeah, 2008 came then, and halfway through that year, we'd lost £750,000. And, the brutal reality was we were staring down the barrel and very close to going out of business. So, 2008 was the horrendous period that you mentioned then, Matt. We're staring down the barrel here, and we've overstretched. With hindsight, we've overstretched. We lost our focus. In all honesty, we were too arrogant. The recession came and kind of worked against us. We'd been building this consulting business, and suddenly the consulting work like just disappeared like that. We'd had a very strong kind of M&A team, and the transactions started to drift out. But yeah, the reality was that we were losing a lot of money, and very fast. And for a small partnership at the time, then $750,000 underwater at half year is not sustainable. And we had to move very fast, and we were the first business in the Midlands to make redundancies, and certainly the first in our profession. It was hell, but just to survive, we had to make some very tough decisions and let a lot of people go. And we went from 293 people down to like 161. So, over 40% of the business left in 12 months. Yeah, so that takes some coming back from. We didn't get everything right there. We moved very fast and were very decisive, and largely got through it 12 months later. In fact, following 12 months, we had our best year financially at that point in the history of the firm. So, we went from getting very close to going out of business to actually being more profitable the following year than ever before.
Ah, wow.
But it was, I was here at the time. I was on the board at that point. I was running, a fairly chunky bit of the business then, and it was horrible. We had been all about hiring great people and talent, not letting people go, and we were having to let them go now. We were not great at communication back then. Yeah, so the transparency of what we were doing, and more importantly, I guess the why and why we were taking the action we were taking, we didn't even think about, to be honest. We were just, we were in the trenches every day, just making decision after decision after decision, just to survive. So the outshot of that was we didn't really bring our team and our people with us. We completely lost the goodwill of the business, and it left a cloud hanging over us for a good 2 years.
Wow.
That was that's 2008, 9, 10 sort of thing. We restructured very decisively and came out the other side.
Sorry, that was me.
What does it mean when the bell goes off?
No, it's all good. You know what's amazing? So you were just getting really vulnerable, and I'll just hold my hands up and say that was a mistake from my part. I'm not on silence. I was just going to say it's so wonderful to hear you be so brutally honest about that time, and I wonder actually, Aid, how much of that turmoil framed the next few years for you, for your leadership team to want to kind of do things better and make sure that you didn't fall down into the same traps again. Do you think it did fuel a passion to do things again?
Yeah, look, I mean the various pivotal moments over the last 15 years that have hugely shaped the business as it is now, and very much 2008-9 was probably the major one. We learned so much there and got so much wrong that you kind of essentially we bought a ton of time to self-reflect and strategize, and the world was in double dip recession for any listeners that are old enough to remember back then. Probably you, Matt, yeah. And then
thanks, man.
I was there too, man.
We were all there.
Super young then. But yeah, look, I mean, we went away and the world's in recession. We're like come close to losing everything we've got. We're asking ourselves a ton of questions about, well, why were we chasing top 20 anyway? What did that mean? You know, how do we now compete and win? So, you know, a lot of what we've done was driven with a desire to like, what's our strategy? How do we compete? How do we win? How do we build a great business? And we were asking all those questions, you know, and you know, from a lot of soul, there was a lot of soul searching. You know, there was a lot of pain going on. You know, why are we getting out of bed every day? We like lost kind of, you know, why we all came together in the first place and what was driving us and what was our purpose and all that sort of stuff and our why. And you know, we were asking all those questions and hey, you know, we realized we got it all wrong and you know, we've been chasing all the shiny stuff and trying to please too many people and trying to be this like one-stop shop and, well, you know, all that stuff that felt right, but with hindsight was not the way to build a great business. And, you know, yeah, so, I mean, everything changed. Our strategy changed. We went laser focused. We stopped dabbling in stuff. We really like zoned in on areas that we felt we could compete, win, truly be the best. That meant we closed tons of stuff. We sold off stuff. We refocused every part of our business in the target markets that we felt were much more laser focused, but much more us and where we could compete and where we could win. We changed all the metrics, how we measured it, you know, and that everything changed from that point, and became much more niche and much more, I keep saying it, laser focused than generalists that we were before. But the real driver, of course, was our change was our culture as well. So, you know, I've got a message that's come up saying I've got to reboot my computer.
Oh, you're joking? No, don't do it.
We might be all right. We'll see. Yeah.
You think so? I'm on the edge of my seat here because it was just getting really interesting. Because don't leave us just yet. Some of those things you were talking about, you know, about defining the purpose and getting the leadership team aligned, laser focused, you know, differentiating yourself and focusing. It's kind of, sometimes I think when I talk to a lot of business owners, it seems counterintuitive to focus, like, you know, it almost like cutting stuff away to kind of get to the root things. How did you find that process? Like, did you feel that kind of worry that, well, we're cutting that other stuff off to go for this? What if this doesn't work? You know, how did you sort of navigate that and work with your leadership team to get to a point where you were satisfied you were going in the right direction?
Oh, wow, great question. I mean, again, largely, you kind of go with your gut, yeah. So, I mean, there were certain parts of the business that were hemorrhaging money, and you know that's an easier decision when you're losing money and you're having a cut. So, you know, but I guess we had this dawning moment when we realised that we'd just been chasing all the shiny stuff. We were trying to do too much. We'd overstretched. We'd overtraded. You know, and yeah, we kind of caught a big enough cold to kind of stand back, force you to stand back and kind of realize that. And, you know, taking that step back and kind of looking in, you kind of realize where you've gone wrong. And then from there, it's quite simple. It's like, well, you know, we just need to do fewer things, but do them really well, you know, and we had a new direction and strategy and vision that was, you know, all about being number one and only doing things if we could truly be the best. So, you know, well, what are we really good at here? You know, how do we play to our strengths? Yeah. And it's simply just, man, every part of our business then went through a strategic review. What does number one look like? Who's the best in our market? What is that market? How do we define the target client market that we want to work in? How do we get a number one? How do we measure it? You know, we got anal about it. You know, we were like just micro laser kind of measuring everything to show that we could truly compete and win. And if we couldn't, we got out and we lived, breathed the mantra that, you know, if we can't be number one, then we're not going to do it. And so it drove we called it a fixed close sell strategy that we live today to that. You know, some very profitable parts of our business that we've closed or walked away from or got out of in the last few years, simply because we know we can't be the best at it, and we can't compete internationally on it. We can't scale it. There are parts of our business that were very profitable that, even not the profit that's driving us, it's the desire to be the best, and that's how we believe we can build something very remarkable is to really laser focus. And we got lucky that in doing so we started to build a very successful business. So it's easy.
I don't think it's luck, Aid. I don't think it's luck at all. I think the two things go hand in hand, mate. I think differentiation, brand thinking, like that you've talked about, market segmentation, being focused. A lot of businesses don't do that, and I don't think it's by accident that you guys have kind of risen through from the last recession. So let's take us up to sort of more recent years, just before COVID strikes. What sort of things were going on? Like, because I've been to your offices, I know that they've been refitted out and they're really wacky and amazing, and you really are the rebels of accountancy. Talk to us about just the last few sort of months, the last few years.
Wacky, okay.
Wacky, in a good way.
Yeah. Thanks. So we reshaped the business. We started then really dominate in our core market. We got market share like 3 times the number 2 in our market in our region, sort of thing. So there was a kind of, I guess, strategically moving from generalists to specialists, moving up the food chain in terms of size. Moving from local parochial kind of businesses. So we were 3 offices: Derby for Derby people, Nottingham for Nottingham people, Leicester for Leicester people. And there's some fairly heavy divides between those regions, but we needed to really play as an East Midlands firm to then go further forward than a Derby business and a Nottingham business. And we got 3 offices that were all different. They were competing with each other. There were different office cliques, different ways of operating, culturally 3 different firms really, and we needed to change that. So one of the next pivotal moves, I guess, was we consolidated the 3 offices into one. We pulled out at city centres, which again was a big leap of faith in our profession. And we came together. I'm actually in the office today. We came together here at Skyview, at Eastlands Airport, and changed the business again. The step change from that point was phenomenal, because we, rather than having 3 groups of people pulling against each other, we now had everybody together under one roof, pulling in the same direction, and hugely powerful in terms of driving change and cultural change. The cultural change from 2009 on was what made it. But to really land that in the early days, we had everybody together, and we could communicate faster, we could collaborate better. We created phenomenal workspace that very quickly put us on the map, both locally, regionally, and then nationally. So the Sunday Times ran us as one of the 10 best offices in the country, and suddenly like everyone was, hey, you got to go to see Cooper Parry's offices. And it's like this gold mine. The office space, I mean, you've been, it's
stunning.
From a hiring perspective, from a pitching perspective, you kind of like walk through the door here and you feel the energy. I mean, this place is electric, and it just bounces. And so for people coming in, you're just walking through the door, you feel the culture within seconds. Yeah, and it's magical. So that just put us on the map. I mean, we still tour people we're not doing it at the moment. We pre-lockdown, we tour people every day around this space. Every single day, we have somebody wanting to come in and go, hey, can we look around? And our concierge team now are trained to just field people coming in randomly from the street to go, hey, I've heard you've got some cool space. So we're like, yeah. I mean,
just for the folks out there that have not been, just check out Google Cooper Parry's offices. It's like if anything could be further from what Aid described at the start of this webinar of like a stuffy house upstairs, downstairs. it would be your offices. Like, you're walking around and there's like moss on the walls. There's a massive like green bull that's just randomly in the corner. Lots of pinks and yellows and sofas and chairs, and it almost looks like a coffee bar in some parts. I know you have offices, where people do work. I don't think anyone should get the wrong impression, because I know you work very hard. But there is really great, relaxing breakouts, collaborative spaces all throughout, isn't there?
Yeah, it's evolved over the last few years further, and we got other offices now around the country, of course. But yeah, we wanted to create modern, collaborative, flexible workspace, and we can get into how's that changing going forward as well. But yeah, look, I mean, we create the sort of space that we'd all like to work in, and the office again is a manifestation of who we are, yeah. So, and who our culture is, and it's been, yeah, real kind of game changer for us. But then, over the years, then it was people were not coming to see the office; they're coming to talk about our culture, and the real change from 2008-9 and the real learning was we had to put our people first, and that was something we meant and we were very serious about, and pretty much everything since then has kind of spun out of our culture and our desire to put our people first, not with the greatest respect, our clients first. And a very strong belief that if we build the right culture, we'll attract the very best people, and if we put them in a workspace that enables them to thrive and they play to their strengths, they're in the right role and they've got a great boss, and if they're happy and they're engaged and all that sort of stuff, which is all the stuff that we focus on, then hey, they're going to do something pretty remarkable in terms of client experience. And if we kind of get that right, then our clients stick with us, they introduce their friends, and then we have a very successful business. And that kind of, I guess, thinking and philosophy has pretty much driven everything that we've done for the last, I don't know, like 12 years. Which, I could go on and on, man.
I know you could. I wish we had more time. I really do, because there's so much juicy stuff in there.
So let me get you up to now. Go on.
Yeah, let's get up to now. So you're doing great. There's business growth. You're winning awards, and then COVID hits. So this is the bit of the story, I guess a lot of people wouldn't have heard. So how did it affect you? And just going back to the question that we were asked, how did those principles that you'd set out from a brand perspective and a culture perspective help you navigate the last few months?
Okay. So we go in a lockdown, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. At that point, we're absolutely flying. We're killing it. We're 45 million turnover, 500 people. We've gone into Bristol, we've gone into London, we've done an acquisition in the West Midlands. We're right on it. We're investing. London's very, very big, very important to us. We've taken new office space. We're right on the gas here, and so that takes us into lockdown. So, yeah, look, I mean, everything moved super fast, didn't it, as a start? Yeah. So if you go back, I don't even know when it was now, like mid-March, we're like, I'm serious, we're in conversations at this end, and there's a growing noise about coronavirus, and we're like, this is crazy. This is like, nothing's going to happen, yeah? And literally, within 48 hours, we're like, shit, what are we going to do here? We're going to have to, and my own kind of journey, I guess, into it was, wow, if the UK seriously is locked down, how the hell do we compete? How do we keep the business? Well, there was a 24 hours before the UK went in a lockdown where I was like literally at home going, wow, this is real. This is how will we keep Cooper? How can we possibly keep Cooper Parry going if the whole of the UK goes in a lockdown? Our clients won't be open. We don't work for them. We got 500 people. We got like 5 offices. I quickly then jumped in my personal situation. I'm like, you work the maths, and like if Cooper Parry goes down, it didn't take long for me to work out I'm bankrupt. So you know, that night I go to my wife and go, hey, look, just to put you on, you know, just to you know, freak you out a little bit. You know, if the UK goes into lockdown and Cooper Parry can't trade, we're bust. You know, we lose everything. You know, and that's not a pleasant chat. But that was my immediate kind of like, and damn, wow, what about the other 500 people in our business, and what does that mean for every single one of them? So, you know, yeah, that was a dark moment for like 24 hours, and then you kind of bounce out of that. And by that point, the writing's on the wall, we're going in a lockdown. So, you know, I'm very fortunate. I've got a stunningly talented team around me. And, you know, we go into the trenches again, you know, and we go super fast. And a lot of us were here in 2008-9, and we learned a lot from 2008-9. Yeah? And there was a real need to be decisive here. And I'm kind of in my own element then, you know, when we're in the trenches and when there's like just decision after decision after decision, like non-stop for a week, you know, and like every hour felt like a day, and every day like a week, and every week like a year sort of thing, you know. And when it just moved so fast, but we focused on the right things, you know. You take cost out, you focus on cash flow. You know, we learned last time around the need to double down on communication, and so, you know, I'm trying to answer your question, I guess, now. You know, the learnings of 2008-9 certainly, and what came after it, and the culture that we created in our business has enabled us to, you know, navigate through this crisis incredibly well. So we went remote working pre-lockdown. We closed our offices before the government guidance because we felt that was the right thing to do at the time for the health of our people. We did it without having stress tested it. We closed the offices with like 6 hours notice, and we reopened our main office 2 weeks ago, and we moved the whole business remote. And you just don't know how it's going to cope. But we'd already, you know, invested hard over the last 2 years in a digital way of working and in tech. And, you know, we were doing audit work remotely anyway, where none of our competitors were. They were all still at clients' premises and stuff. So we were ahead of the curve, I guess. But you just don't know if it will hold up. And, you know, we'd got a culture of trust and empowerment and freedom. But, you know, still moving 500 people to work remotely, where, you know, you maybe have this. Yeah. You just don't know, do you? But I guess, you know, our culture stood us instead, and we really like doubled down on communication, and actually found in many ways our communication improved bizarrely. Wow. And everybody's checking in with each other, and you know, we were very open and transparent as we are with our people around furlough and cost reduction and the state of the business. You know, I have like weekly comms going out from me to the business. We have very regular all hands dial-ins where we'll take any question at all. You know, there's just loads of stuff that we did to really increase the engagement and the communication and the transparency and the visibility and the openness. You know, we're very much what you see is what you get. You know, there's no question that we won't seek to answer in our business. And, you know, the work I guess we put in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years is what's enabled us to trade very strongly, retain the engagement of our people, and trade through this, and actually trade through it very strongly. You know, and you know, the focus in those early days was cash flow, cost reduction. We took 3.7 million of cost out of our first 6 months of this year's budget. You know, we had budgeted to spend. Wow. We sweat. You know, we went as I did at home. You know, you just like every cost was switched off. You know, and tight and lean. And then you see the opportunities to pivot and actually we can now dial that up, and this part of the business is still hot, and actually there's an opportunity to go from here to here. you know, and we still then win. I mean, the amount of new business we've won remotely during lockdown is insane. I mean, just, you know, in many ways an uptick on what we were doing physically, you know.
Wow.
And you go into this and you just say, well, how can you possibly build a relationship with a business remotely, digitally, never meet them, build rapport, build their trust, show that you're the best placed people to work with them and win their work without ever meeting them?
Can be done. Clearly.
And
yeah.
You know, it's proven now, you know, I mean, you know, you take these some big leaps and some big kind of jumps and you kind of learn a lot fast, don't you? And, you know, and then, you know, we realize actually we're working really well here and you know, the trust was there before, but it's there tenfold now.
Yeah, and I understand, like, your April, your chief people officer, she, I saw some stuff on LinkedIn from her around, like, working from home anywhere or something. Was it WAF or something all the time? Or I can't remember the exact phrase. So, what, I don't know. Yeah, help me out here, please. So you've actually built this into some of your policies, haven't you? And after you just answer this, by the way, we'll go to Steve. So just cue up Steve there. So, yeah, what was that all about?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, we kind of just like through the early days, we just surprised ourselves every day about how well we were adapting. You know, I mean, we're no different to anyone else. You know, you don't miss the commute. Yeah, you don't miss sitting in traffic. You don't miss the interruptions and the distractions. So, you know, for many of us, for many of our people, this was like a godsend in many ways. You know, the pause has helped us all, hopefully, in different ways, kind of just buy time back. And you kind of realize then, well, maybe there's a better way of working. Yeah, but really what we want to do is now like leverage this moment and you know, drive change for our business for the better. You know, we can kind of huddle down and see ourselves through it, or we can really embrace this and thrive and drive change for our business. And, you know, one of those ways is, yeah, you know, we're not alone, you know, and we now entrust our people to work anywhere, anytime, you know. So there were two moves there. There was one, you know, we've always had remote working and work from home policy, but this is big. This is now like, look, we've proven that we can work anywhere. Yeah. And we trust you to work anywhere. And you make the decision. Now, 4 or 5 weeks ago, we didn't really have the option to open our office space. So it was like, look, we're going to move to, you know, we're going to entrust you and empower you to make your own decisions. We're going to give you the choice here and the flexibility to choose where you work. Whether that could be on the beach, could be in the office, could be, you know, you've got to work to what the client kind of needs as well, sort of thing. But first off, you know, when we can, you've got the choice now. So that's the, you know, work anywhere. And in the last few weeks, we've kind of, you know, evolved that further, because you're in a like, well, we don't have core hours now, do we? And stuff. So, you know, largely, you know, we're not 9 to 5, we're not core 11 to 3. It's like, look, you do the work to suit you and to suit your colleagues and to suit your clients and get it done. And, you know, so we just brought more flexibility in, and we're fast. Work from anywhere, forever, anytime.
There you go. Fantastic. We've literally got 2 minutes left. So Steve's going to fire you a quick last-minute question from the folks at home, and then I'm going to wrap up. Steve, fire a quick one to A.
We haven't got any quick ones. I reckon we should just try and answer them as quickly as possible, but they are amazing. We've got some great questions. Graham's asked, if you were having a relaxed beer with the managing partner of another firm of accountants, intent on creating change and growth on his or her practice, they're being very, very cagey here, what would your top 3 tips be? So quick fire, top 3 tips.
Sorry, what was the first bit? Is this the same Graham? Graham, he's asking too many questions.
Same Graham, yeah. But he's saying, yeah, if you're having a relaxed beer, what would your top 3 tips be over a beer?
Oh, if I had a beer. Hey, well, I'm off alcohol, so I can't do that. But That's a big change through lockdown. That would be my first stop. So sorry. The question is, what would be my 3 tips to a managing partner of another firm who's looking at Chatham? I mean, I get, it depends where they are on their journey and where their pain is and what they're trying to do. But I would go with get great people around you. So hire talent. Help them to play to their strengths. So get them in the right seats. So get the right people in the right seat. And trust them. Let's go with that. Yeah, right people, right
Love
seat. So, yeah, you wanted it fast.
No, that was fantastic.
Another one, Matt? Can we go for another one?
Go on, just one last quick one.
From Craig, he said, when you open up more offices, is it going to be more difficult to export your culture?
Again, great question. And yeah, on paper, you would think it would be. Our experience has played out that it's not. So, you hire well, you get the right people, you trust them. You have a framework. So, our culture is so deep now in everything that we do, and the kind of Cooper Parry way. The framework is so clear, and it's so embedded that it enables us to roll it into either an acquisition or a new space. Our hiring process is so thorough, and you don't always get it right, of course, but we hire very slow. Yeah, so we make sure we get the right people, and if you get the right people and you put the right environment in place, and they have great managers and all that sort of stuff that we really spend a ton of time on, then yeah, I think you can export it, and we're doing that. We've done that in London, we've done it in Birmingham, we've done it in Bristol. It's not easy. If you focus on the basics, then yeah, you can do it.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, I think I want to be respectful of your time, Aid, and everybody on the webinar. So I just want to thank you so much. I'm going to wrap up now. I think what you've sort of explained is the in your story is the dramatic transformation that can take place when you set out to be a bit different, when you set out to carve and blaze the trail, and when you kind of when you put some of these strategic questions at the forefront of your mind and then try and execute against them, putting your people first, building a culture, being different, and all of those things, in my mind, they've created this brand, not just a logo and some fonts, but a kind of a real experience from an employee to right the way through to the customer, inside out, like you've explained. So thanks for sharing the power of brand and the story that you've given about Cooper Parry. And we wish you all the very best as you grow into the future. And I'm sure these principles will no doubt be something that you'll layer on top of in the future. So thanks for sharing all of those great things. So super to have you on. I hope you do forgive me for grilling you for an hour, but there we are. It's just one good thing about the digital thing: you can't smack me or pull my beard. So that's
switched off. Yeah, no, it's great. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I appreciate it. I hope there's took something away from it. Yeah,
I'm certainly sure they will have. So just a couple of quick things. We're hoping to hold another one of these webinars, all being well, on the 26th of August at 3 p.m. And next time we've got a really interesting guest, Victoria Taylor. Victoria is a customer experience expert. She's fantastic. She's worked all over the world. I'm really kind of excited to talk to her about customer experience in the time of COVID, as we're all kind of bouncing back. It's going to be really interesting to get her thoughts and kind of tools and methodologies in regards to how we can do that in a meaningful way for our customers. So tune into that and see how it aligns to brand strategy. And keep an eye out for that on social media. Steve will send some stuff out. I'll send some stuff out on that. And we look forward to joining us then. Final reminder, remember, Brand Up, the big conference is for charity. We'd really be grateful for as many people as possible to sign on to that. All the profits go to charity. February the 19th, 2021 in the Quad, the only dedicated brand conference in the Midlands UK. I've been Matt Davies. Thanks so much for joining us. Take care, look after yourselves, and keep safe.